before I ask anyone to take me in." On one house there was a balcony, and just as the boy walked by, the doors were thrown open and a yellow light streamed through the fine, sheer curtains. Then a pretty young fru came out on the balcony and leaned over the railing. "It's raining now. We shall soon have spring," said she. When the boy saw her, he felt a strange anxiety. It was as though he wanted to weep. For the first time he was a bit uneasy because he had shut himself out from the human kind. Shortly after that he walked by a shop. Outside the shop stood a red corn drill. He stopped and looked at it, and finally crawled up to the driver's place and seated himself. When he had got there, he smacked with his lips and pretended that he sat and drove. He thought what fun it would be to be permitted to drive such a pretty machine over a grain field. For a moment he forgot what he was like now. Then he remembered it, and jumped down quickly from the machine. Then a greater unrest came over him. After all, human beings were very wonderful and clever. He walked by the post office, and then he thought of all the newspapers which came every day, with news from all the four corners of the earth. He saw the apothecary's shop and the doctor's home, and he thought about the power of human beings, which was so great that they were able to battle with sickness and death. He came to the church. Then he thought how human beings had built it, that they might hear about another world than the one in which they lived, of God and the resurrection and eternal life. And the longer he walked there, the better he liked human beings. It is so with children, that they never think any further ahead than the length of their noses. That which lies nearest them they want promptly, without caring what it may cost them. Nils Holgersson had not understood what he was losing when he chose to remain an elf. But now he began to be dreadfully afraid that perhaps he should never again get back to his right form. How in all the world should he go to work in order to become human? This he wanted, oh, so much to know. He crawled up on a doorstep, and seated himself in the pouring rain and meditated. He sat there 1 whole hour, 2 whole hours, and he thought so hard that his forehead lay in furrows, but he was none the wiser. It seemed as though the thoughts only rolled round and round in his head. The longer he sat there, the more impossible it seemed to him to find any solution. "This thing is certainly much too difficult for one who has learned as little as I have," he thought at last. "It will probably wind up by my having to go back among human beings after all. I must ask the minister and the doctor and the schoolmaster and others who are learned and may know a cure for such things." This he concluded that he would do at once, and shook himself, for he was as wet as a dog that has been in a water pool. Just about then he saw that a big owl came flying along, and alighted on one of the trees that bordered the village street. The next instant a lady owl, who sat under the cornice of the house, began to call out: "Kivit, kivit! Are you home again, Mr. Gray Owl? What kind of time did you have abroad?" "Thank you, Lady Brown Owl. I had a very comfortable time," said the gray owl. "Has anything out of the ordinary happened here at home during my absence?" "Not here in Blekinge, Mr. Gray Owl, but in Skåne a marvellous thing has happened. A boy has been transformed by an elf into a goblin no bigger than a squirrel, and since then he has gone to Lapland with a tame goose." "That's a remarkable bit of news, a remarkable bit of news. Can he never be human again, Lady Brown Owl? Can he never be human again?" "That's a secret, Mr. Gray Owl, but you shall hear it just the same. The elf has said that if the boy watches over the goosey gander so that he comes home safe and sound and " "What more, Lady Brown Owl? What more? What more?" "Fly with me up to the church tower, Mr. Gray Owl, and you shall hear the whole story. I fear there may be someone listening down here in the street." With that the owls flew their way, but the boy flung his cap in the air and shouted: "If I only watch over the goosey gander so that he gets back safe and sound, then I shall become a human being again! Hurrah! Hurrah! Then I shall become a human being again!" He shouted hurrah until it was strange that they did not hear him in the houses. But they didn't, and he hurried back to the wild geese, out in the wet morass, as fast as his legs could carry him. End of In Rainy Weather. Read by Lars Rolander.